Good morning, folks. Welcome aboard another day building EV. Well, successful day yesterday, cutting and waxing a few more boards. So I think I have enough of those to do everything that I need. And I will now get on with the frame of the door. So this is the first time I've ever made a stud wall of any description, and the first time I've ever made a door frame. Thanks Barney and John for the tips at various different times. Well, basically I ended up just lining up the frame, making a square frame. Let's pretend that I managed to make it the right size the first time. The magic of editing means that you've not seen me do it wrong the first time. But there we go. I just made it too narrow. I made it to go inside the bearers on the floor instead of on top of them. In essence, this is just lots of measuring. Diagonals are a useful way of making sure that you have got things square. Literally, as I was just thinking that I'd got it all right, then John gave me a call, and he suggested that if I clamp something to the ends, then I would be able to have something to pull against in a known location. And well, it turned out that I'd got it right. I'm not quite sure how, but I had, so good stuff. Then I needed to try it back in the hole. So these are square on the floor, and when they come up here, then they pretty much exactly line up with the marks that I made. Unfortunately, the camera didn't seem to record when I was using the circular saw above my head to cut out the middle of one of the cross members, because that was too low for the door frame. So anyway, by the time that I was putting this in place, then it just needed a little fiddling and adjustment, which fortunately didn't throw the measurements out at all. And when I lined it up, then it was even better than it was when I didn't have it in the hole, so to speak. So pretty good, pretty lucky. I'm not sure. I'll take it, whatever it was. Naturally, there are a couple of wedges keeping things in alignment up at the top, as pretty much normal, I think. And I was just clamping front to back to ensure everything was in alignment while I was actually putting the fixings in. Some of these are sort of homemade pocket holes, if you see what I mean, using a flat spade bit to give me an opportunity to get the drill in and the screw in to where I need them. These cross members are actually where I will be locating shelves. So they'll just be for plates and mugs and glasses and things like that. But because I know what height I want them at, then I decided it was a sensible idea to give myself more than just one piece of wood to aim at when I'm putting in the shelf attachments later. As usual, I've tried to cut out some of the just toing and froing as I made very minor adjustments to the lengths of each of these pieces of wood. But you get the idea that there's quite a lot of toing and froing as I just kind of nibble a millimetre off here and there, and then figure out how to attach them and so on and so forth. This was something I came up with that I'm sure isn't new, but it worked very well. Was using a framing square and then a carpenter square to set the angle for the cuts on the edges of these cross members. And when I did the front and back walls, then I just measured carefully and what have you. On this occasion, then I decided that I had some nice 12mm strips of plywood lying around, so I thought I would make myself a little template with using those, and it worked very well. In fact, once I've made the first one, then you'll see that when I made the second one for the port side, then it was so quick because I already had the pieces of wood cut to length. It was incredible. It was just brilliant. And this with a track saw, this is definitely the way to make these sorts of things. If you're doing these yourself, heartily recommend strips of plywood, and I've just used, I think they're 3.5 by 16 screws, so it just worked very well, nice and stable. I could move it around, no problem at all. Absolutely blooming brilliant. And as an added bonus, when I was trying to assess which piece of wood to use, then obviously you can look straight through it to see any blemishes and what have you, and decide which one is going to be the best layout for the exact piece of wood that you want to create at the end of the day. Of course, if you're painting your walls or what have you, then this sort of dilemma doesn't occur for you. But because I'm leaving my wood as wood, then you get to see whatever marks are in the ply. I haven't got A grade ply, so it is a question of figuring out the bits which look best.
Oh gosh, I've run out of music. Best say something then. Um, well, as you can see, I know that there are some screws going to get hidden, so I fixed in the middle of the bulkheads because it seemed sensible. And Mike, my neighbour, turned up at an opportune moment. That was great. Very handy. Thanks very much. Makes life a lot easier just having somebody else.
Well, I think that concludes the votes from the Danish jury for today. I have obviously got those two panels up, got the walls in the kitchen back up. They always had to come down because my plan was to do this first, but having delayed it and delayed it and delayed it, then obviously I got the other walls up. But some of the fixings are hidden in there, so you can't see them. The purpose of this partly is that none of the joints on this piece of wood or any others that go across the boat are visible. So all of the cuts that I've got to make that are mostly visible are dead straight. So that was part of the reason for doing it. Also, it does mean that you can take the walls off without having to take the bulkheads down, which can be a pain I've seen on other boats. I've now realised that actually, when you do want to take the sidewalls off, then you need to take the sockets off. So perhaps not as infinitely repairable as I thought. I have also cut these. And the other one on the other side, which fortunately I remembered to do that before I forgot and took the various things apart. I've also taken the opportunity to cut down a couple of the full sheets just so the maximum height of the boat, just make them easier to move around. So I've got a bit of tidying up to do, but I will be back in a few days. If you made it this far, how about liking and subscribing?